I've never really failed at anything. Oof. Okay. If you've ever even thought about using this line in an interview because you think it makes you sound like the perfect candidate, please stop right there. It is hands down the ultimate interview myth. Look, nobody is perfect. And more importantly, no hiring manager actually expects you to be. What they really want to see is how you handle the messy and perfect reality of the business world. So today we are tearing down the facade. I'm going to step right inside the interviewer's mind to show you exactly what they are silently evaluating when the pressure is absolutely on. Welcome to this premium coaching explainer for the English effect. Today's lesson, it's going to completely transform your interview skills. We're tackling the 5 toughest interview questions you will ever face, and I'm going to coach you on how to answer them naturally, professionally, and most importantly, fluently. Treat this just like a one-to-one executive coaching session. Oh, and by the way, to get the absolute most out of this explainer, make sure you hit subscribe and download your free vocabulary companion workbook from the description right now. Seriously, it's packed with all the professional terms we'll be covering today. All right, let's get to work. Question number 1. Tell me about a challenge you faced. Now, why do interviewers even ask this? Let's take a look inside the interviewer's mind for a second. They are silently evaluating your problem-solving skills, your initiative, and whether you can actually stay calm under professional pressure. They want to see if you're proactive or if you're kind of just someone who sits on the sidelines when things get a little tough. Basically, they need evidence that you're willing to face issues head-on and make a sincere attempt at a resolution. But here's where candidates so often stumble, and this brings us to our first recruiter's red flag. It is a massive, massive mistake to ramble or treat the interview like a venting session. You're not talking to a friend over coffee, right? When candidates launch into this unprepared 20-minute life story that's completely focused on some dramatic office conflict, they just instantly lose the interviewer's interest and, frankly, appear super unorganized. So let's look at the difference between a weak candidate and a strong one here. Contrast that weak defensive rant we just talked about with a candidate using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. A much stronger professional answer might describe a very specific instance where you handled senior staff who pushed back against required training. By showing that you actively listened to their concerns and empathetically explained how the training would actually lighten their workload eventually, you're demonstrating real, tangible leadership. Notice the vocabulary a strong candidate uses here. You don't just deal with problems, you face issues head on. When colleagues resist a new idea, you call it pushback, and you work to identify the root issue. Slipping these natural business collocations into your answers shows you really understand corporate dynamics. So the crucial point here is our golden takeaway. If you remember only one thing from this question, remember this. Make sure you spend way more time talking about the positive resolution than the conflict itself. Show them exactly how you fixed it. All right, moving on to question 2. Tell me about a mistake or failure. I know, this is the one that makes everyone sweat. But listen, inside the interviewer's mind, they aren't looking for a reason to disqualify you. They're actually trying to gauge your self-awareness and your honesty. Employers are evaluating whether you possess a rational process for learning from your errors. Industry experts emphasize time and time again that they just want to see a bit of humility and hear exactly what you do to overcome your weaknesses. Which leads us directly to our next recruiter's red flag, a lack of integrity. Saying something like, well, I made a mistake because my colleague gave me the wrong data, or offering one of those fake weaknesses like, I just worked too hard, is a terrible strategy. Shifting the blame onto others or failing to own up to your errors completely signals to the hiring manager that you lack team spirit and you actively avoid taking responsibility. Instead of hiding behind excuses, let's look at a strong professional approach. Imagine admitting that early in your career you missed a deadline because of poor organization. But then you explain how you actively sought your boss's feedback, completely revamped your organizational skills, and actually secured an even bigger account later because of your brand new system. That stronger answer works so well because it shows absolute responsibility, a dash of humility, and a really concrete plan for self-improvement. When you're framing this story, try to use high-level expressions. Instead of just saying, I messed up, you can say, I dropped the ball. Show some reflection by saying, in retrospect, I could have done better, and frame the whole event as a valuable learning experience. And that brings us to the golden takeaway. If you remember only one thing from this question, remember this. Define what failure means to you first. Frame the story within your own high professional standards so the interviewer can see exactly how much you've grown. Question 3. Why did you leave your previous job? Inside the interviewer's mind, their radar is on high alert for this one. They want to ensure you're leaving for the right reasons and that you aren't a problem person who's just going to abandon them the second things get hard.
They're heavily evaluating your professionalism to make absolutely sure you're motivated by career growth rather than just running away from a messy conflict. And this brings us to a massive, inviolable rule, the ultimate recruiter's red flag. Never, ever say something like, "My boss was impossible and the culture was toxic," even if it is 100% true. Speaking negatively about a previous employer will completely soil your suit, as industry experts like to call it. Using vague complaints like a personality clash instantly destroys your chances, and honestly, it just casts a shadow on your own competence. So how do we fix this? Simple. We flip the script. Instead of a negative complaint, you frame your departure as being ready for a new challenge. Let's say your last role was very narrow. You can tell the interviewer you're looking for a role that allows you to see product development from start to finish. See what you did there? You transition from a negative past to a forward-looking narrative about finding a better fit for your evolving skills.
Let's master some professional transition terms here. You are making a career transition to seek a new challenge. And hey, if you were let go, just keep it neutral. The role was eliminated or the department was reorganized. So here is your golden takeaway. If you remember only one thing from this question, it's this: stay entirely positive about the future. Always, always focus on how this current role you're interviewing for is the logical, exciting next step in your career. Moving right along to question 4. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Inside the hiring manager's mind, they're hunting for realistic ambition. Many executives are huge believers in goal setting. They want to see if your goals actually align with the company's growth, and crucially, they want to evaluate your long-term commitment to the industry. Basically, they want to know this isn't just a brief, temporary stopover for you. The recruiter's red flag here often swings to two wild extremes. On one hand, you have candidates who confidently declare, "I want your job," which, let's be honest, sounds incredibly presumptuous and a bit arrogant. On the other extreme, you have candidates who just shrug and say, "I'm not really sure. I just want to see where life takes me." That makes you sound entirely rudderless and lacking in motivation. Trust me, both of these will absolutely cost you the job. To succeed here, we have to avoid those vague expectations and arrogant demands. A beautifully strong answer would be expressing a desire for deep sector expertise, stating that in 5 years you want to be fully certified and hope to have taken on managerial responsibilities. This proves you've thoughtfully mapped out a career path that naturally aligns with how the company itself actually wants to grow. To really sound like an executive, use powerful business nouns. Talk about your career aspirations and the professional milestones you plan to achieve, which proves your long-term commitment. And for your golden takeaway, if you remember only one thing from this question, remember this: assure the interviewer that your professional milestones involve contributing significantly to their organization. Show them you plan to become a valuable asset to them. We have reached the final hurdle. Question 5. Do you have any questions for us? Now, this isn't just polite conversation to wrap up the meeting. Inside the interviewer's mind, they are using this to verify if you've actually done your research. They're evaluating your true initiative, your understanding of their company's unique challenges, and whether you're going to be a great cultural fit for the team. Please, whatever you do, do not raise this next recruiter's red flag. Saying, "No, I think we covered everything," makes you appear completely uninterested, and immediately pivoting to, "So how much vacation time do I get?" or focusing exclusively on salary and benefits way too early in the process, that makes it look like you only care about what the company can do for you rather than what you can do for the company. You really must contrast that weak finish with a highly engaged approach. Consider a candidate asking about the company's plans for future growth, how they are handling current industry challenges, or even simply asking the interviewer what their absolute favorite part of working there is. This proves you are thinking deeply about the long-term success of the business and that you actually value the perspective of your potential future colleagues. Show off your strategic thinking by asking questions that use terms like company culture, how organizational changes affect stakeholders, or how a new product gives them a competitive advantage. Fun fact, hiring managers absolutely love it when a candidate brings a notebook. Which leads to our final golden takeaway. If you remember only one thing from this question, remember this: always have 5 or 6 questions prepared in a notebook, because some of them will naturally get answered during the interview anyway. Having backups demonstrates true executive-level engagement. Wow, what an incredible coaching session today. Now, to really master this, I urge you to practice answering these questions out loud. Do not just memorize scripts. Get comfortable using these phrases naturally so they roll right off the tongue. If you found this explainer helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and definitely don't forget to download your free Vocabulary Companion workbook from the description. Also, be sure to check out our next explainer, episode 4, where we dive deep into mastering the STAR method.
But before you go, I have a question for you. Which of these 5 interview questions do you find the most difficult and why? Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you in the next explainer.